Hilsen, willkommen till Hansenheim. Today my wife Barbara and I, Dudley Hansen, are going to show you how to make lefse, the equipment you need, the process, and the procedure for preparing it. Here's the equipment. We use a thing called a heritage grill, and it's specifically made for lefse, but you can use it for other purposes, ham and eggs and everything else. And you need flour, you need a spray bottle. I'm going to explain all of this stuff during the process so you don't have to take notes here. And Tupperware to put the finished product in. You'll need some covers for this round object, which is the rolling board that you roll the lefse out on. Here's the griddle. You have turning sticks. You have wax paper, which we'll explain, a rolling pin, a potato ricer, and flour. As an aside, fellers, it's a sensitive and romantic Norwegian that knows his wife's favorite flour. Really helps you out like on anniversaries. My wife's favorite is all-purpose. Okay, now we'll go into the process. Start with russet potatoes. 5 pounds makes about 27 sheets of lefse. There's usually 13 or 14 potatoes in 5 pounds. And you have to cut out all the little eyes or they'll mar the finished product. And cut it into small cubes. Soak them, or cover them with water until you're ready to boil them. Takes maybe 20 minutes to peel 5 pounds. Here we have our potatoes all peeled and cubed. And we'll boil them in 2 batches, one at a time, and process the first one before we start the second one. This is just for convenience, so as not to have too big of a batch to deal with at one time. You boil them just as you would potatoes for any other purpose. Okay, this is complicated, I know, but if you've been following me so far, we're ready to move on. This first batch of potatoes is just about boiled, and in the meantime, Barbara has put 5 tablespoons of butter in the microwave, and it's going to nuke that for a second, and we'll show you what happens next.
Okay.
Okay, next step. The boiled potatoes, we're going to drain them very well in this colander. They have to be well drained, so dump them in there, let them drain for a few minutes. Next, we're going to rice these guys, and for that we use a device called a ricer, strangely enough, and ours happens to be sort of an antique, probably from the 1920s or so. We had a new one that broke last year, so we bought this at an antique auction, and it's much heavier duty than what you can get today. We'll show you how that works in a second. A handful of potatoes in the ricer, and the potatoes should be still hot but well drained. And then we're just gonna squeeze that, and there you go. We're gonna put in 5 cups of rice potatoes for one batch of after a couple of ricers full, I scrape off this and then tamp down the potatoes. Not real tightly, but just tamp them down so there's not a lot of air in there. Otherwise you won't have an accurate measurement of how much there is. Okay, this is just about done. We didn't have enough potatoes in the first batch to get 5 cups, and Barb's recipe calls for just 5 cups even, so we made the second batch. It's okay to let that batch sit for a few minutes while you're boiling more potatoes. And she's going to top that off at 5 cups, and then she's going to add 5 tablespoons of melted butter, 2 tablespoons of whipping cream, and 1 teaspoon of sugar, and right into the bowl and mix it all up in the bowl.
And then I'm going to add a little salt.
And then she's going to pack it into a pan, and we'll save it till tomorrow and make lefse. Okay, Barbara has poured in the melted butter and the heavy cream and the sugar, and she's now mixing, and a little salt, I guess.
Yep, just a little taste.
Just a little taste of salt. And she's now mixing it in that bowl, and it will go from there into a pan. Into the pan it goes.
This is a 9 by 13 ungreased cake pan. I'm going to smooth this all out in this pan.
And while she's doing that, I'm going to start ricing the next batch.
And I'm going to leave this sitting out until it's completely cool. Don't refrigerate it until it's completely cool, because then you're going to end up with potatoes that are too wet to make lefse.
Okay, when they're totally cool, you cover them and put them in the refrigerator and cover them with aluminum foil as well. I got that right, Barb?
Yes, you got to make sure the paper towel's on here so it soaks up any extra moisture, or you're going to have sticky, wet potatoes.
Okay, here is beginning of day 2 of our process. Here's the potatoes just out of the fridge.
They're nice and dry because we've had the paper towel on them. They're cold.
And here's the flour and rolling pin, and this is the device that Barb rolls them out on. Here's the things we pick up with.
It's just a plain piece of wood. You can buy it at a Scandinavian supply store, or you can cut your own.
And
looks like it's about 18 inches round. And this pastry cloth is marked 10, 12, 14 inches, so it gives you an idea. Then you put this cover over the top and tie it down good and smooth it out.
And the lefse has to be rolled out so thin that you can read that Bethany pastry.
When I can see the lines, then I know it's rolled out thin enough.
Here's the griddle. And here's the pickup sticks.
We got 2 lefse sticks.
They're like window shade slats. In fact, that's what my grandparents used. And
one for Dudley and one for me.
And then after they're done, we'll bring them over to the table here and lay them on this cloth and cover that cloth with a similar cloth that's been dampened around the edges to make a sort of a seal to keep it hot and fresh.
This lefse griddle we got at Farm and Fleet. You can get these at a Norwegian supply store, but you're going to pay a lot more than if you just go to a hardware store or Farm and Fleet, some place that sells appliances like this, and you'll probably get it for about half what you'd pay in a Norwegian store. Okay, I've added 1 1/4 cup of just regular all-purpose flour to the cold potatoes. Don't add the flour to the potatoes until you're actually ready to start making the lefse. So I'm going to take a spoon and I'm going to start mixing the flour into the potatoes, and when it gets kind of mixed up, I'm going to get in there with my hands and I'm just going to squeeze it and mix it until the flour is completely mixed into the potatoes.
And that the amount of potatoes, recall, was 5 cups of riced and tamped potatoes. When we were making that yesterday, the second batch ended up to be a little short, so we just left it sit there in the measuring bowl until I had peeled and boiled some more potatoes. And we ended up with 2 batches of 5 cups each.
Okay, now I've spent several minutes kneading the flour into the potato mixture, and now it's fully incorporated, and I separated the potato mixture with the flour mixed in into 2 separate loaves. And we're going to work with 1 loaf, and the other one is going to go in the refrigerator because we want to keep the dough cold.
Barb has separated, cut this loaf into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slices, and I'm preheating the grill to 375 degrees, and we'll let you know if that doesn't work so well. It's kind of a go by feel type of thing, so we'll keep you posted.
Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to flour our lefse board here, and we need lots and lots of flour. So keep your bag of flour handy, and you really need to rub this in, because as soon as you get a sticky spot on your lefse board, then you're going to have to change your cloth, because you'll never be able, you'll always get the part of the lefse sticking to the sticky part. So You really have to flour your board good, and you have to keep it floured between rolling out your lefse. So you just rub it and rub it and rub it and rub it until it's in. And when you finish making your lefse and you take your lefse cloth off, I'm very careful. I take it off, I take it outside and shake it, and then I just throw it in the washing machine and wash it on cold, and it comes out just fine. And I also have an extra one of these covers on hand in case I do get a sticky spot. I can just take this one off and replace it and keep going with the lefse. So I'm going to keep rubbing this in a little bit more. Okay, next up is your lefse rolling pin. You can see it's got grooves in it. And I'm going to put a stockinette over this. And I'm also going to flour this stockinette really well. And this works the same way as the cover. If you get a wet spot on this, you're going to have to take it off and replace it, because then it's going to stick to your lefse. So have a bunch of these on hand, and you can get these at a lefse supply store. They're cheap. They come in with several in a bag. And I also have a few extra old sports socks that I've cut off the tops, and I use those to cover my lefse rolling pin. But be sure you wash your socks first, because sweaty sports socks, if they're not washed, then you're going to have lefse that tastes like lutefisk. Okay, here we go. First piece of lefse. I'm going to put it down here on my board. I'm going to rub it around a little bit so it gets a little flour on it, and then I'm going to start rolling. So we are beginning now to roll out the lefse. Try to get it in a circle, and you don't need to press hard. Just gently work it and work it.
When we first started doing this, we tried to guess what continent Barb was making. And Australia was easy to identify, but some of them got a little difficult. India was a popular shape. But she's really gotten good at it over the years. Now they're pretty much round.
Now I'm beginning to just barely see some writing through this sheet, so I know that I'm approaching the correct thickness. But just keep gently working it, and you can see how that little tiny piece of potato is working its way into a nice big sheet of lefse. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now
See, that took about a minute and a half to roll that
I'm
out.
going to take my
This is very delicate.
I'm going to take my lefse stick, and I'm going to run this under here to make sure that there are no sticky spots. Looking good. So now I'm going to pick this up, and I'm going to put it over here on the griddle. And I'm going to roll it out like that. And then my handy helper, my lefse boy, lover boy, is going to keep an eye on it, and when it gets just slightly brown on this side, he's going to use his stick, and he's going to turn it over. My helper have you turned that yet?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't have any brown spots on it.
Yeah, I probably turned it a little too soon. Better too soon than too late. You can always flip it back over again.
Yeah.
You can see little bubbles are rising after you flip it, they always start to make little bubbles like that.
And that doesn't hurt anything. This will be a mighty fine piece of lefse.
Move it back this way.
Dudley's going to flip it back just one more time. You can see it's got a few little brown spots. That's perfect. We're going to try and just give it another minute on the other side, and then it'll be done.
And show me how I deposit it across the room.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to take this off, And he's going to carry it across here to the other side of the room. Lay that on a cloth. And we're going to cover that. There we go. And we spray the edges, just the edges of the cloth to keep the lefse moist. And we're going to continue now. We're going to make, end up making 32 whole rounds of lefse, and each one of those will be divided into 4 pieces. So that will be enough for our Thanksgiving dinner, but not nearly enough to get us through the holidays. So we'll have to have another day of lefse making. After you make 2 or 3 sheets of lefse, you probably get a little bit of flour residue on your griddle, and we put just a teeny little bit of cooking oil on a paper towel and just wipe that off so you don't get a lot of burned flour on your lefse sheets. A lot of the lefse making process is sitting and waiting, and when Dudley and I make our Christmas lefse, we'll have 2 griddles going, so it will go faster. And also, I would like to tell you that the recipe I gave you is just one of many recipes for lefse. I got my recipe from my friend Audrey Wilms, from whom I learned to make lefse, and I like it because for me it's easy to work with and it's delicious. But you don't need to use that recipe if you've got a favorite recipe from a friend or your grandma. I'm sure it'll be just as delicious. Okay, I want to show you that you can actually see the writing through the lefse, so you can tell that it's nice and thin. And I also forgot to mention that my friend Audrey is 100% Norwegian, so she knows her way around a lefse griddle. Okay, so now we have our nice stack of lefse almost done. It's all perfect. And when it's cooled off, I will put it in an airtight container with sheets of wax paper between the layers, and we will have it for Thanksgiving dinner. And I will take the cold lefse out and thaw it, and then I will zap it in the microwave for just a few seconds, maybe 10-15 seconds, and it will taste just like it came off the grill. And if you decide to make lefse, don't do any substituting. Don't substitute something for the butter. Don't substitute something for the cream. Don't try to make it healthier by using some organic flour made out of grass clippings. Use the recipe the way I gave it to you, or else don't make lefse and have a relish tray if you're worried about the calories. See, does this lefse make my butt look big?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so the lefse has cooled, and so now I'm going to fold each lefse piece in half and then again, so it forms a little triangle like that. So each individual piece of lefse will be this size. We'll cut each circle in 4 pieces, and when I want to warm it up, I'll put 4 triangles in the microwave, zap it for about 10 seconds, and it will be ready for the table. Then if you're going to not serve for a little bit, then you want to cover your lefse with some wax paper or something to keep it from drying out. So I'm going to stack a few of these in my Tupperware container, and then I'm going to put some wax paper over one layer, and then I'll start another layer. This makes it a little easier for them to be separated when we're thawing them out, or if I don't want to thaw them all out, I can just do like a couple of layers. I'll probably have to use another container. So there we go.
Okay. Okay, so now you know all about making lefse, and go out and try it yourself and enjoy.